What's going on, Evenant? Today, we're going to be making this sound. So that's what's called a pulse bass. It's very rhythmic in the sense that it keeps the energy going in the track and fills up the low end, being a pulse or bass. So basically, it's a rhythmic bass. Now, as I demoed a little bit in the beginning there was a lot of macros and variations added to this sound. So this was the pulse speed, and then I added different textures with these two knobs here. So I made this a very playable instrument for you, and it gave about 3 different timbres. So let's go ahead and get in and see how we do this. All right, so let's talk about how we're going to trigger this. So I have a clip set up right here, and it's going to be an F0. 0 stands for octave, and it goes across a whole measure, one measure. So I have a blank Serum loaded up right here, and this is where we're going to start making our sound. So if we listen, we'll just hear what that F0 sounds like. Right, exactly. Just an F0. And it's just playing the default waveform, so there it is. Cool. Let's go ahead and start with our oscillator, right? So our oscillator, we're going to go into digital, and we're going to go and grab gritty. Okay? That's the one that we're going to be using. So now we're going to add ourselves a little bit of, well, it's a pulsar bass, right? So we need to add the motion to it. So let's go over here to our first envelope and start creating this shape. Okay? We're going to go ahead and bring this guy over. And we're going to go ahead and pull that up. And like this. Awesome. We're going to set it to trigger because we want it to continue to loop. And we're going to drag it over here to our level. Bring this back, pull this up, and let's go ahead and put it on 8th note and see what we got here. All right, great. Perfect. So we're starting to get that pulsing action already. All right, moving right along to our oscillator B. Let's go ahead and grab a spectral this time, and we're going to go and grab electric guitar. We're going to move it up an octave. Okay. We're going to give it one unison. Well, before we do that, let's go ahead and just animate it first, just like we did the other one. So we'll bring this over here. We'll get the levels just right in a minute. So let's see without this. Nice. Now we're hearing it start at different times, so we're going to bring the random down and the phase back on both of them. That's something that I like to do. You guys have heard me talk about that before. Now every time you start it, it'll sound the exact same. Perfect. So awesome. This is looking good. I like to add, whenever I layer, I like to put them spatially in their own spot as well. So I'm going to give this guy another unison, and I'm going to kind of just blend it right in here. Nice. I love that. Perfect. Let's find a nice spot on the wavetable. All right, that sounds good to me. All right, next thing we're going to do is add our sub bass in. So let's go over here and engage our sub bass. Let's find the right octave. I think it's okay at 0. Perfect. We'll make it direct out, and we'll go ahead and give it the same pulsing animation as everybody else. Nice. We're sounding really good now. All right, so we're going to go ahead and engage our filter. Let's go ahead and put on a multi-filter. It's going to be a high pass and a peak. Let's go ahead and bring this guy right back around here. Let's bring the frequency of our peak up, which is right here. We'll see it in a second as we add some resonance. Okay, and then I want a little motion on this guy right now. So I want to put our LFO on it here and just pull it back a bit like this to give it a little bit of rocking back and forth motion. Let's hear what this sounds like. Now notice that I only have oscillator A being routed through it. I'm leaving B out of it. Cool. Nice. Let's turn this the gain or the drive up a little bit. Nice. It's sounding really good now. Last thing we're going to do is add our noise oscillator. Let's turn that on. And I'm going to choose, under the analog, I'm going to choose SID wine. What I'm going to do is animate it the same as everybody else. Okay. And I'm also going to turn on key tracking and pull this down to -10. It's going to line up nicely with everything we got going on here. Let's go ahead and hear what that sounds like by itself. Maybe with even out the sub. Okay, cool. That's going to go ahead and follow our notes. Adds that nice little hollow grit to it, which I like. If you notice, as I turn all these on and off, they all fill up their own spots, you know? You see how they all add a nice layer, that they're all kind of on their own spot? That's kind of what we want to do while we're choosing oscillators. Great. So we're looking good here on LFO1. Let's move on to LFO2. All right, LFO2. Let's keep this basic shape, but round out our edges a little bit. And remember, I'm going to use these kind of things to find, so make sure that they're, well, if I make sure that this guy goes right there on that box, and I do it the same on this one, well, I know that that shape is symmetrical. Cool. So let's go ahead and start applying this to things. So we're going to go down here and set it to 1 bar, and we're going to set it to trigger, and we're going to start choosing things to animate this with. So let's go ahead and use the wavetable position. Let's see what that sounds like. Okay, and it's going to take 1 bar to go all the way up, and it's going to kind of hang in this area, and then it's going to dip back down. Love that, love that. Now, maybe I don't even want them to be symmetrical, so I want it to kind of take a little bit longer to get to the top. Nice, and the exact shape it takes will be up to you and what you decide is best for your bass. Amazing. So let's go over here, and we had the asymmetry negative on this. Let's bring it up here and apply the same sort of motion to this guy, but we're not going to do it with the wavetable, we're going to do it with the warp mode. Super cool, super cool. And lastly, let's add it to the wavetable position here and see how that sounds. Nice, these are really starting to come together. Let's go over here to our noise oscillator and bring this guy over and do this kind of back and forth thing. So I don't want it to go so far, but I do want it to do this. And this is going to add motion to our sound because we have that, remember that hollow, whiny kind of a sample here, and now we're going to add some motion with it. Let's turn these off so you can hear it. Sweet. All right, this is really coming together pretty good. Let's go ahead and check out our effects real fast. All right, let's pop on over. Boom. And first thing we're going to do is add some dimension to it. Maybe just open it up a little bit. Bring the mix down on this guy for now. And size on the dimension expander, usually 1 or 2%. And then we could bring this guy up. Sounds nice. Cool. Next up, we're going to add some distortion. And I think we're going down to down sample on this one. This one's going to add a cool, let's see. Love that, sounding great. Gives it almost like a talking thing. Cool. Next up's going to be our compressor. Definitely setting it to OTT mode, and let's go ahead and dial this guy in. Definitely evens it out. And what I'm doing here is I'm moving these around. Like if I want more highs, I could just, or less, right? So I'm just dialing in what I want. This is good for evening out your sound. That's kind of the best part about this OTT style compressor. Finally, we're going to do something pretty interesting. I'm going to open up a filter, and well, the whole thing's interesting, but the effects are pretty standard so far. But here I'm going to go down to miscellaneous, go down to my combs, and we're going to create like a comb filter type sound here. So let's pull this back. Right, so you see what's happening there. Cool. So let's dial that in, and let's go ahead and bring our resonance up a little bit, and let's go ahead and create one more shape here and see what's going on. So let's go to LFO4. We'll create sort of the same shape. Let's bring it to a bar, and let's bring it over. Let's put it on an envelope and bring it over to this guy and have him kind of walk up a little bit. Nice. Let's hear what the... I'm losing some volume there, so let's check out the drive. Cool, I don't want there to be a differential when I go into that. So, as I was saying, this is kind of gnarly to be happening all the time, so what if we can control that a bit? So let's turn the mix down here, bring over a macro, and yeah, perfect. So it's down usually, but when I turn this up, I can add that effect to it. Not bad, not bad. Cool. So I'm loving this. It's taking the shape that I want. Let's go back to the main oscillator page and really dial this guy in. So a couple of little tweaks, and I think we've got our sound. I'm going to choose to make one more envelope, and I want this to look a little bit unique. I'm going to make this kind of come to the ground here, and then kind of scoop in like this, and kind of roll out like that. That looks good, and I want it to line up with this line here. Perfect. I'm going to bring it to a bar, set it to envelope, and go over here. I want to add sync to this guy, and let this kind of walk up a little bit on the sync. So we get almost two sounds to this. Let's hear how this is sounding with this thing. Nice. It's just giving me that rock back and forth that I want. So great. This is kind of the full sound. I want to take control of the pulse itself. So I want it to be fast and then be able to flip it to slow or whatever. So let's go over here and let's just do it like this. Let's just leave it on slow, right, and be able to flip it to fast, whatever. So now it's going to be, and we'll just write in pulse, pulse is fine. So now if I go all the way up, it's going to be like, yeah, all the way up. So I'm going to pull this back so it's just one. So basically we're able now to jockey back and forth from an 8th note to a 16th note. Nice, starting to come together. The last thing that we're going to do here is pretty interesting as well. We're going to go into the matrix and use an auxiliary source. What's that? Well, I'm going to tell you. So over here, if you see that on LFO1's got this thing controlling, so it's adding this motion to it, right? So if we listen, right, you got this motion pulsing. Well, what if I only wanted to add that motion when I wanted to add that motion? That would be cool, right? So the volume will still stay here, but the animation will go away. So check this out. We'll go up into matrix, and remember, this is oscillator B, level. So we'll go into matrix and find the oscillator B, level volume, and you can see that the LFO1 is controlling it. I'm going to go over here to aux source and select macro 2, and now macro 2 will engage LFO1. I'm introducing this to you now so we could use it more advanced later. So check this out. Watch, when it's down, cool. So now we're able to, it's almost like how much of this LFO1 is allowed to go to the desired parameter, which in this case is the level. So that's dope. So let's go ahead and call this like, B, flow or something like that. And that way we're going to add more flow to that. Very cool. So at this point, we've got this sounding pretty dope. We've got a couple of different sounds we can add to it and rhythms. Amazing, amazing. This is looking great. So, remember, basses are mono sounds. So let's go ahead and turn this mono on. And remember, we have this little global slot here that everybody forgets about. So we can kind of tweak some things up. Remember that if we've got unisons here, I could take advantage of some of the stuff over here. So maybe I want to go ahead and just move the warp mode around, right? So let's see what happens. Turn it up. So now you can hear there's two different spots here. Found a nice little sweet spot there. And let's go here and move this guy around too. And this is basically just moving the wavetable position just different on these guys. So. And maybe we add some motion. All right, man, this is really dialed in. And finally, remember when you're ready to render your sound or print your sound to go into ×4 mode. But while you're writing, ×2 mode is just fine. Great, you guys did it. We did another sound. Perfect. So let's go over here, save our sound, okay? Remember, we're gonna go into our Evenant folder, into our basses, and we're gonna call it Pulse Bass. Perfect. Great job, guys. I'll see you on the next one.